All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City Council meeting. Tom, would you take the roll call, please?
Mayor King.
Present.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Present.
Councilmember Baskin.
Present.
Fisher.
Present.
Schuster.
Present.
Ellie.
Present.
Postma.
Present.
Baker.
Right here.
We have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you, Tom. Before we start, I just want to recognize and pass our condolences on from the City of Austin to the City of Burnsville for the loss of the two police officers, Paul Elmstrand and Matthew Ruge, and firefighter, paramedic, and Adam Finseth. Certainly a tragic day, Sunday morning. Certainly unnecessary. We get it. We want to also applaud our own APD and AFD on the work they do in putting themselves in harm's way. We know that kind of thing can happen anywhere, so I want to please pass along that to your officers. Chief McKeegan and Chief McCoy is gone, but hope he does the same. It's just senseless and seemingly more and more recurrent. So just on behalf of the City of Austin, we send our condolences to the City of Burnsville. With that, we'll take a motion for the adoption of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Tom, or I'm sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2 is a motion approving our minutes from our February 5th, 2024 meeting.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3, under recognitions and awards, we're going to welcome next meeting Miguel Garate as our honorary council member. He'll serve from March 4th until May 20th. He's well aware, and I'm sure everybody knows Miguel, and he'll be a value add to council as our next honorary council member. So we welcome him, and he'll be at our next meeting. Also under recognitions and awards, we have an exciting proclamation from the Chamber of Commerce. They've developed a Go Austin, Minnesota app, and the proclamation for that app reads as follows. Whereas the Go Austin, Minnesota app project is focused on bringing community resources and events to residents, and whereas the Go Austin, Minnesota app will display community events from the Discover Austin community calendar, and whereas the project aims to help residents access local businesses information and other community resources, and whereas the Go Austin, Minnesota app will incorporate fun and engaging categories, and whereas the Go Austin, Minnesota app will allow businesses to directly alert their followers, and whereas the Go Austin, Minnesota app will help all within the community of Austin work together even better, and whereas the Go Austin, Minnesota app embodies the objectives of the Austin Area Chamber of Commerce and their community partners to enhance community engagement and promote local business. Now therefore, I, Stephen M. King, Mayor of the City of Austin, Minnesota, do hereby proclaim Thursday, February 22nd, 2024, as Go Austin, Minnesota App Day. And Chauncey is here to accept, and Elaine's as well with the chamber. They're going to have a kickoff from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock on Thursday, February 22nd at the B&J Bar and Grill. If anybody needs directions, just come to me and I'll give you directions to the B&J. So I will be there. I hope a lot of folks from town will be there as well for that kickoff. But Chauncey or Elaine, you want to come forward for your proclamation? All right. Moving on to item number 4 is a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And I should have mentioned from the get-go, the adoption of the agenda is inclusive of the addition and also a redaction. I'm assuming that wouldn't make any difference. Under bid openings and awards, we have item number 5 is receiving bids for the Creekside Business Park and Development. Stephen.
We recently opened bids for roadway and infrastructure extensions out at Creekside Business Park. The roadways include 9th Street Northwest, 26th Avenue Northwest, and 27th Avenue Northwest. The additions of these roadways will open up about 50 additional acres of development out at the commercial site. We received 8 bidders on the project. Ullin Brothers was the low bidder at $2,764,762.74. That was their total base bid. We did have an alternate that we included on the project in case bids came in high. This alternate was to use a lesser quality oil in the asphalt mix to look at a cost savings measure. But because the project came in under bid, we would recommend going with the total base bid, which is includes the higher quality oil in that asphalt mix. In your backup material, I included a couple different items. One would be a sources and uses table, and I've made some updates to that since this backup information was sent out. If you look at the uses of funds, the total uses of funds now totals $4,047,873.83. And what that now includes is some work that's going to be done as part of the project by Austin Utilities, gas, water, and electric extensions totaling over $500,000 that I didn't have in that original sources and uses cost. Also included in attachments is a recommendation letter from our consultant, SEH, and also the authorization to award letter from the EDA. As you all know, we have an EDA grant that will be covering 50% of this project cost. So with that, we would recommend awarding the total base bid to Ullin Brothers.
Council, any questions of Mr. Lang?
Stephen, the budgets that or the grants that we have from the U.S. Department of Commerce and Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development, do we then give those dollars back, or do we put them into a separate account for additional, like what do we do? I mean, good thing that the project came in cheaper. Do we have to give the funds back, or do we keep them?
The EDA grant, the federal EDA grant, was in the amount of $2,212,000. That covers 50% of whatever all of the final project costs are. So we'll likely have to give back about $200,000 of that. Also, the economic development grant through the state of Minnesota, that $1.6 million grant, that will also be recalculated. We estimate it's going to be around $1.5 million.
Okay.
So essentially, yes, the extra dollars that are unused will be given back.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, council? If not, looking for resolution for item number 5.
So moved. Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Baskin,
Aye.
Fisher,
Aye.
Bashusta.
Aye.
Helly,
Aye.
Postma,
Aye.
Baker,
You bet.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0, Your Honor.
Thank you, Tom. Moving on to public hearings, item number 6 is a resolution on a public hearing on street improvement on 8th Street Northeast from 16th Avenue to 18th Avenue Northeast and lift station construction at 16th Avenue and 8th Street Northeast, project 23104 and 23201. Mitch or Stephen? Mitch?
Yep, I'll start off tonight. So before we get into the 8th Street project, we've got 5 different projects that we'll be presenting on tonight. We held an open house last week on Wednesday that was pretty well attended. A lot of those people were from the 9th Street and 12th Street Southwest project. A lot of familiar faces here tonight, so a lot of them are here tonight as well. We also had mailings and other documents sent out to these property owners kind of explaining some of the work that was going to be taking place. And then also, and some of those are included here, kind of showing what our assessment process is, some frequently asked questions about projects or typical street projects, and then some ways for residents to sign up for text alerts during the project so they can keep informed of what's going on. So now we'll jump into the 8th Street project and Institute Lift Station. I'll go to a map here. So this project is adjacent to the Hormel Institute on 8th Street Northeast, and this project's largely being driven by underground sanitary sewer improvements with the elimination of the Weyerhaeuser lift station and the construction of a new Institute lift station, which would be part of a 3-phase project where we also eliminate 2 other lift stations in the coming years. What we plan to do in this project in 2 phases, and starting with work along 16th Avenue and underneath the interstate, we'll need to directionally drill a force main and a gravity sewer line underneath the interstate to complete the lift station construction. And that once that's complete, then we would follow along with the street reconstruction on 8th Street. That includes gravity sewer all the way up to 9th Street, just south of International Paper, where we have our existing Weyerhaeuser lift station. And along with our work on the project, Austin Utilities will be doing water main construction and service replacement. And then after all the underground utilities are done, we'll be replacing the road with a concrete street as it is today. We'll also be modifying the curve that is at 16th Avenue and 8th Street just slightly. Right now it's a little awkward for traffic. You can't really tell if it's an intersection or a curve, even though it's used as a curve. So we're going to be making that a little easier to traverse and make it a little clearer on what drivers should do at that intersection. The total project cost is $2.4 million, with about $1.15 million of street costs, $50,000 of storm sewer costs, and then $1.2 million of sanitary sewer and lift station construction. Lastly, the schedule. So again, I said we're going to tackle this project in 2 phases. Phase 1 would be in blue, the portion outside of the roadway, starting that in May and wrapping up in July. And then the portion on the 8th Street itself would take place from July to the end of construction season in October. Any questions?
Questions, council, for Mitch? If not, looking for, public. Anybody here from the public wishing to speak on this 8th Street Northeast project? All right.
And I do have one more thing. We have been working with the Hormel Institute on deliveries that they have and special accommodations that we need to make for some of their sensitive equipment within their facilities. So we're working with them on that.
Well engineered, well thought through, motion to approve.
Thank you, Mitch.
Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Baskin.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Bashusta.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Baker.
You bet.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0, Your Honor.
Thank you, Tom. Item number 7 is a public hearing on street improvements on 9th Street Southwest from 17th Avenue to 22nd Avenue Southwest, and 12th Street Southwest from 17th Avenue to 21st Avenue Southwest. Project number 24101. Mitch?
So this would be a residential street reconstruction project that we have both 9th Street and 12th Street grouped in this project. The work taking place on each of these streets is slightly different. On 9th Street, north of 19th Avenue, we would be removing and replacing only the deteriorated curb and gutter. And south of 19th Avenue, we would be replacing all the curb and gutter as well as the street. We do have a lot of underground utility work on the project south of 19th Avenue. We'll have sanitary sewer, storm sewer, and water main reconstruction. Also, Austin Utilities also has gas main replacement scheduled for early this spring on 9th Street as well. The big change would be the proposed addition of sidewalk on both sides of the street on 9th Street. I'm sure we have a lot of comments here tonight on that. The general comments that we heard at the open house and through other communication with residents is they're not in favor of the sidewalk going through there. It's being proposed as part of our complete streets policy. And then for the work on 12th Street, that's a little less involved as far as underground work goes. We only will be replacing sanitary sewer manholes and doing a couple spot repairs to our main. And then the curb and gutter will be removed and replaced in spots where it's deteriorated. Also, 12th Street currently has sidewalk on one side of the road. The other side of the road is Highway 105, so there's no sidewalk there. But we would be removing and replacing deficient sidewalk panels on 12th Street. And then there would be one extension of sidewalk where there is none today, and that would be on the north end of 12th Street, adjacent to the church property. And then finally, the biggest change that we are considering for 12th Street and 19th Avenue intersection would be the construction of a connection to Highway 105 from 19th Avenue. And we did hear a couple of comments at the open house that were against that connection. Did not hear any emails prior to that or up to now, but there were some comments made at the open house. Lastly, the schedule, and then I'll open it up for some questions. I'm sure there's a lot of questions out there. So we plan to tackle 9th Street and 12th Street at differing times. We would start with 9th Street in May of this spring, and that would continue through September of this fall. And then we would start 12th Street in July and wrap up in September.
Thank you, Mitch. Before we open up to the public, council, any questions for Mitch on this project?
Mitch, I got it.
No, go ahead.
Rock, paper, scissors.
I'll defer to Councilman Baker.
A couple, just, I think, general comments. I don't think our complete streets policy says anything meaningful or that compels action on our part. You know, the thing that really worries me, and I think Councilmember Baskin has been working with Mitch and has identified the fact that we have 47 miles of streets in Austin that don't have sidewalks. If we put sidewalks on both sides of those 47 miles of streets, that's almost $20 million. That is just entirely too much money for me. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but it's a long time problem and a long time cost, and I don't know that that's the best use of those funds. You know, I think everybody here agrees that we want to separate pedestrians and bicyclists from motorized vehicles. For those of you who know what my business is, I am really, really a big fan of that because I get really spooked about trucks running and people getting in the same roadway. You know, I don't think our policy of putting sidewalks where we don't have them now, and that's the problem we're facing over the next 5 or 6 years, because we're working on those streets, is smart. I think we have to identify where do we have real risks, real safety risks and real connectivity problems, and we got to focus on that stuff, not just putting sidewalks in places where we are currently working on our streets. You know, I think we've all heard from the folks, especially on 9th Street. I think they've got a valid tree argument. I really do. That really bothers me. I got to tell you, we've cited some studies, and I got a good one for you. I actually read this stuff. This is the Federal Highway Administration's report to Congress in March of 2022. These are not my people. This is the hard left group of the Federal Highway Administration talking to Congress about what needs to be done to improve the complete streets approach. I'm going to tell you, they said 3 things I think are interesting. One, we as a country, when implementing the complete streets policies, we need to do a better job on data collection and analysis. I don't think we've done a very good job in really looking at safety data and really looking at connectivity data in our community to drive where we do our complete streets work. I really don't think we've done enough. The second thing that the Highway Department said is we need to support rigorous safety assessment and prioritization. In other words, we got to go to where the safety problems are and spend the dollars first. And we have to, the third thing out of the first 5 that, of their recommendations was we have to accelerate adoptions of standards and guidance. We have a policy today that's going to has led to a full House and probably a 4-3 vote. That leads me to believe we don't have a very good policy for our city. I really believe that. If we can't agree on something, we're not there yet, and we got work to do. You know, I think that we got to do 3 things. One, I do think we have to grandfather in some of these streets that were built without sidewalks and leave them alone. I'm firmly a believer that we got to look at it for every new development, but if people were told 30 years ago, we're not gonna put a sidewalk here, and there is no compelling data that says, hey, we have a safety problem, or we have a real connectivity problem, then let's not put a sidewalk there. I think we gotta think about that. I think we gotta pull out the dollars that we were gonna spend, especially on 9th Street, and, let's do some studies. Let's get a real comprehensive plan together. I don't, I think we have Mitch and Steven use that money to do something else, and that something else is really come up with a good, complete streets plan. And I know that's not everybody's favorite thing, but again, I really think that we have an obligation as a city to provide a real fact-based message to the property owners that says, here are the safety issues, and here are the connectivity issues that we're trying to solve that will drive putting sidewalks in front of your house. Because sidewalks aren't the only complete streets tool we have in our toolkit. We can post speeds down. You can go on and on. So that's kind of my 5 cents. Sorry if I stole your.
That was well said. So, yeah, no, I'm good.
Councilmember Baskin?
I think that fully covered
All right.
the question I was gonna ask, so we're good.
Anybody else have any questions before we open it up to the public?
I do, but I'll hold off till some of the folks talk.
Well, I'd like to welcome my neighbors to the 9th Street Block Party. Thank you for coming. Understand a lot of emails, a lot of for face-to-face visits. That's the way business gets done in city government, so I appreciate the outreach. I'm sure council does too, and I'm sure many of them participated in those meetings. So who would like to start? Okay, let's go with Mark Bjorley, and then we'll go Charles on deck. And if you could, please step to the microphone each time and that you're here and state your name and address, and then give us your thoughts.
I'm Mark Bjorley. I live at 11th Street Southwest down in that neighborhood area, so I'm not directly impacted by either the 12th or the 9th Street project. But I do also come on behalf of Faith Church. I'm on the board there, and so the frontage road, 12th Street that goes along Highway 105 will be impacted. So that's how I found out about the project initially. I've had good answers and feedback from Mitch on some of my questions, so most of my issues have been addressed. But because I live in the neighborhood, the concern I have is with the project of opening up can you pull that up again, Mitch? Yeah, where 19th Avenue Southwest comes from the right-hand side of the screen to the left, then they're talking about linking it with Highway 105. And I would like to see that canceled. The reason why is 19th Avenue Southwest in that neighborhood is the corridor where kids get on buses, and it's a corridor where kids that are in the elementary at Southgate, it's their walkway to get to Southgate safely. The school does provide a crossing guard at that intersection, but when 21st Avenue is just 2 blocks to the south and it's a straight shot out to 4th Drive to the west, to the east, I just don't see the need to open up to Highway 105 at 19th, and I see it as being counterproductive, the whole issue of safety for complete streets, because I would like to see sidewalks on 19th Avenue once they get to that project because of that, because kids are walking in the street, because there's areas on the end of almost each of those blocks where there's a sidewalk that's not there, so they're forcing the kids out into walking in the street to get down to the school bus, or more importantly, the ones that go all the way through and are walking up to Southgate, because a lot of the kids are in that walking distance for the school and are heading up to Southgate. So I'd like to see that one reconsidered and ideally canceled so that there's not that increase of traffic coming in and out of that intersection of 12th Street and 19th Avenue. So,
Thank you, Mark.
yep, so thanks for considering that.
Appreciate it. Charles Mills. Just state your name, please, Charles, and address.
I'm Charles Mills. I live at 2003 9th Street Southwest, and thanks for the opportunity. I'd like to thank the engineering department. They've been open and very gracious in their answers. It's been a pleasure working with them. I met with all of our council people except Ms. Haley. I missed her meeting. I'm sorry I missed. I've had some different responses. I've had some great responses. We moved to 9th Street Southwest in 2007. Reason we chose this particular house, several of them, but I think they're important. One of them is the street itself. I have a son-in-law that grew up in Austin. He said, this is a great street. You know, if you want to buy that house, go ahead and do it. We didn't particularly like the house. It's kind of a nice looking house. It was built in 1983 by Riverland, or the construction crew. It appeared that way too. We've redone most of the inside and put a lot of money into it, and we really appreciate it. But that beside the point, we bought it because it had a laundry on the same floor. And a lot of the things, as we age, we need. One thing is, as I age, I don't need a sidewalk in the front of my house. So that's the main my personal reasons. The other reasons are, we're going to lose some trees. We're going to lose them because of Dutch elm. Understood and appreciate that being done. But the others, we're going to decrease the environment of our community. We have a culture on that street, and it's a little different than other places. Other places have better cultures, but we like it. And what the city has done by bringing this project up, we've brought our neighborhood much closer together. We know more of our neighbors, which that's a good thing, but it is a good street. I think it will be detrimental to the development or to the continued appearance and structure and the character of that street. The last point I'd like to make is the policy itself. Several things have been brought forth in that. I think policy is the bad way of doing these things. You make a policy, and the first thing you do is you make a waiver. Then you do another. Every one of these waivers weakens the policy. The policy is, in my opinion, not the right way to do it. The right way to do it is under ordinance or under charter. Those are things that can really fix it. If you look at it, in paragraph 2 is where the only time sidewalk is mentioned. To complete streets, which include transportation improvements should include facilities and amenities that recognize and contribute to the complete street, which may include street and sidewalk lighting, sidewalks, pedestrian and safety improvements. It says may. That's a weak word. It's a very weak word. How do you defend that? I think it's very difficult to defend it. I sent out an email and I said, go to Google Earth and fly over some cities around here. I did that. And if you fly over and you get down low enough in Google Earth, you can see the sidewalks. There aren't many sidewalks around. There's not many here. There's not many in Albert Lea, Owatonna, Faribault. We moved to Eden Prairie. It was 18 years, and I'm almost 18 years here. It'll be the longest time I've ever lived in a house, which is good for me. But I went up to Eden Prairie area, Bloomington. They have very few sidewalks except on the thoroughfares where the heavy traffic is. If you look in Austin, there's an area west off Oakland on the south side, out by Ford dealership. There's 3 large apartment complexes there. There is one sidewalk that goes along a storage building down south of Ford dealership. It goes about maybe a block, and that's the only ones in the area. The park has no sidewalks. It's got a walk path inside. 27th does. These are areas that we can take those funds and invest them in safety, and they are effective. We've got areas across from a nature center. That was developed with no sidewalks again. It's a great area. I'm sure we could use it on the major thoroughfare there. Sidewalk might be appropriate. So we need to take those funds as Mr. Baker said, and invest them where they're needed. Just starting throwing money out doesn't do any of us any good. I request your support, eliminating sidewalks in this. And thank you for your time.
Thanks, Charles. Anyone else? Evan? Name and address, please, Evan.
King, Mayor, members of the council, thank you for having us tonight. This is the first meeting I've ever been to. I live at 1905 9th Street Southwest. I'm a third-generation Austinite and grandson of a former council member. I'd like to thank Jason and Mike for their excellent representation of our ward, and I hope you two give us the necessary votes, as you are the direct representatives of most of the people sitting here in the audience. I'm a deputy sheriff with a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 10-year-old, and I don't have any concerns with any of my children riding their bikes, rollerblading, playing on the street when necessary. So that just kind of shows you what my stance on the sidewalks. I don't think that they're a necessary safety issue. So that just gives you a little bit of background into my children. We were all mailed a bill what this is going to cost us assessed to our taxes. I think mine was over $6,000. I have an irrigation system along with, I'm sure, most of you guys. If you put a sidewalk through my front yard, I'm gonna, on top of that $6,000 bill, I'll probably have a $1,000 bill to move that irrigation system. And I'll just make the last point finally, as a school board member elected at the city of, by the city of Austin at large, we've been presented on our board with ideas that make sense at the time, but after public input by the citizens that we represent, we've changed our opinion on stuff, because your duty as council members and representatives of your ward is to represent the people that elected you. So I hope you guys consider that in your votes tonight, especially Jason and Mike. You need to represent the people sitting here who elected you. Thank you.
Thank you, Evan. Name and address, please.
Yep. My name's Nick Byer. I live at 903 19th Avenue Southwest. So my garage is actually on 9th Street, so I'm impacted on that corner house right there they're pointing to. So I'm just here to kind of represent a different take. I've lived in 2 different cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and then in Dubuque, Iowa. You know, the cities in those respective communities do things like Mr. Baker was saying. They take the data and they analyze the safety data when making their decisions. In both cases, I was actually a part of streets being redone, and that's what the city did. They said, hey, let's take our data, let's analyze it, and let's make the best informed decision. When I was down in Dubuque, very heavily foot traffic neighborhood, no sidewalks. When they came through to redo it, they let the people on the street put their opinion in and actually vote on it, on whether or not the sidewalks were implemented or not. And in that case, the vote was no, because we felt like there was no need for them, because there was no safety concerns. There was no prior accidents in that neighborhood. Same thing with our neighborhood here. I don't feel like there's any risk with it. I grew up in the neighborhood, actually. I'm originally from Austin. Actually grew up in the neighborhood. My parents actually live across the street from me, ironically. But, you know, I don't see the need for it. I rode my bike, walked to school when I was a kid. There was no need then, and I don't think there is any need now. I have a 2-year-old, and I have one on the way. And, you know, my perspective is the same. I'll let my 2-year-old go out in my front yard and run around, no problem, because the traffic in the neighborhood is vigilant for kids, and they stop for them when they see them. There's no need for this here. Also, the trees will be impacted by it. You know, 47 trees that could potentially go as a result. That's a lot of mature 50-plus-year-old trees, as I'm sure many council members have gotten letters from my fellow neighbors on. And then lastly, I'd leave you with, my parents, we redid their driveway back in, I believe, 2013. It was asked then if there needed to be a sidewalk section put in. The answer we got, and I'm not going to name any names, was absolutely not. And it was by a member of the city, that sidewalks would never be put in that neighborhood. So I'd really like to see you guys not go back on your word then. I know the council's changed since then, but back then it was deemed that sidewalks would not be put in. So anyhow, my take on it, no sidewalks. Hopefully you guys vote the same as you're representing us, taxpayers. And also I'd like to touch on the 19th Avenue, since my house is on that. I think that's a terrible idea to open it up to 105. It's going to increase the traffic, reduce the safety for the kids, and also it doesn't match up with the street neighboring towards Southgate. It's actually offset. So now you're increasing, now you're going from no intersections, right, to 1, 2, and 3. And that's just going to create all sorts of safety concerns. Heck, you might even have to put a stoplight in there at that point. So that's just my 2 cents on it. I don't think that should be a part of that project either. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Sir. Please state your name and address, please, at the microphone.
I'm Dan Ehrlich, 1610 3rd Avenue Southeast. So I'm not in anybody's neighborhood here.
Are you talking about this project, though?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, let's hear it.
Not specifically this project, but complete streets, if that's okay, Mayor?
Sure.
Okay. So I don't live in the neighborhood, but I do ride my bike in the city a lot and have for my entire life. I'm 58 years old. I was born and raised here. And I've been hit by cars 1, 2, 3 times in my life. And once when I was a kid and twice as an adult. And as an adult, I was sent to the hospital and I missed a year of work, had shoulder surgery. And in all of those instances, I was on Austin city streets and I was in the right of way, but was struck by vehicles that left stop signs. In every instance, it was vehicles that left stop signs where I had the right of way T-bone me. So I come with a voice from that side of things, and I'd also like to remind people that the people that would benefit from the complete streets the most are probably not here tonight. And that's because they're the more vulnerable community, they're children, and they're those of us, or those in the community that don't have the option of driving for whatever reason. And that includes a lot of adults. So I'm here to be a voice for them as well. Now, I love trees, and I think I don't know that much about specific instances that we're talking about here because it's not in my neighborhood. So I'm not here to pick apart the projects. I'm just here to advocate for complete streets. And I was at a city council meeting a couple of months ago where we addressed complete streets. And if I'm not mistaken, the council voted unanimously in favor of to continue our complete streets policy. Is that true? Mm-hmm. And something changed between now and then. I suspect it's when these projects started rolling out and our neighbors started hearing of it that we have this, and that's great. I'm glad that everybody's super engaged, and that's part of the process. So I think we can all do this peacefully and respectfully. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Anyone else? Sir.
Hi, Sean Williams. I live at 1900 9th Street Southwest. I basically have just 2 questions. Does anybody know what the text of the grant paperwork says? In other words, was it specific that the grant money had to be used where this is being proposed? Is that a yes or no? Does anyone know?
Mitch?
There are no grant funds being used on this project. This is all local city funds. It's not a federally or state funded project. It is only local city funds.
Okay, so if it's city funds, I'm going to interpret that can be your guys' choice on where it's used.
Essentially, yes.
Okay, that's good. From a PR standpoint, if I understand the law correctly, once sidewalks are put in and everyone's done and gone back home, the sidewalks are now the responsibility of the homeowners. Is that right? Okay. If you go around Austin, my wife and I bike all over in Austin, and there are a boatload of sidewalks that are in horrible, horrible shape. So I'm proposing, instead of spending I think Mr. Baker said $20 million plus on our street, would it not be?
Oh, no.
What was it?
20 million plus is the whole community.
Okay, all right.
It's
Well,
not just
whatever
your
the amount is for our street, would you not get more mileage and PR for the council and individually to use that money to say, hey, City of Austin, we're gonna stand up and use that money to fix the sidewalks that are broken and save the homeowners that cost? Yeah, I mean, I would think it would make the news because you just don't hear that very often. So that's just another idea. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sean. I believe the cost of the sidewalks on Ninth is $170,000.
That's correct.
Anyone else wishing to address the council? Jerry? Name and address, please, Jerry.
It's a twofer.
We don't live in Southwest either.
We don't.
We live over by East Side Lake. Jerry McCarthy, 306 13th Street Northeast.
And who's your sidekick, Jerry?
This is my lovely wife, Suzanne.
All right, very good.
A couple of things, you're gonna stretch my memory, but I think the whole Complete Streets project or policy came from Vision 2020. I think it was an outpouring from information that we had back then that indicated that policies like this impacted healthy living in the cities. So that's kind of groundwork from where we're coming from. At the last meeting, I think I talked about cafeteria plan. At what point in time does every homeowner in Austin decide, well, I don't want city streets, I don't want curb and gutter, but I'll take all these other services. I don't want your city sewer, but I'll put a septic in my backyard. I mean, this is something that I think you need to face at some point in time. You know, you have a policy, I think you need to implement it citywide for the safety. And I tend to agree with my esteemed former partner back there that we're getting to a point where we're having a have-not-have conversation here. Do we have an area of town that has a little higher cost housing and they can dictate what they get? Where I live, we have lower cost housing. When the street was redone, what, 5 years ago?
At least.
We didn't get a choice.
No, we were happy.
They came in and put new sidewalk in. It comes down to how you implement a complete policy in this town. Just something to think about, because you're, as Mr. Baker said, you're gonna face it every year from this point on. I mean, 20 years down the road, future councils are gonna have the same discussion because you've already got areas of town out by the nature center that weren't required to put in sidewalks. So at some point in time, you're gonna have that discussion, or some future council.
I think you're letting, I know it's personal cost, but I don't think people's personal costs should dictate what goes on in their neighborhood or all over town. I think if there's a policy for sidewalks, it should happen. We're old, we drive around at night for something to do. We do. And we go out to the southwest, around you, like 27th, 28th Street. I'll never forget it. One night we're driving, and we don't drive fast, but here comes this little kid on a bicycle without a brake.
She had training wheels.
No, it wasn't even, I don't know. Come flying down their driveway, because the houses are kind of up on a little bit of a hill. This kid's flying out toward the street. Luckily, he knew enough to whip the wheel so he didn't go out in the street. We would have hit him. You know, I mean, it's very dangerous. We came around the corner again out there, and here's a mom with her child, that's the one on the training wheels, tipping like that all over. And it's like, come on. If you had a sidewalk, you could have the kids right on that. We do. And as far as meeting neighbors, because of this project, when you've got a sidewalk, you really meet neighbors. We live right on East Side Lake, and there's people going around continually. And we'll be sitting out on the front steps, and they visit with us. It's been great. I've lived there forever. My great uncle is Jake Herzog, the guy that built the lake. He took a chance way back when. And it's it might be a funny lake to some people, but I tell you, it's beautiful. Balloons and birds that come in. And you've got to sometimes do what's better for your city, not just for yourself. And I think I'm seeing a lot of that. I'm done.
Thank you, McCarthy's.
Okay,
Good.
I get nervous then.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Paul?
Thank you, Council, for having me get up. My name is Paul Monacchio, 1910 9th Street Southwest. I've lived in this neighborhood 31 years, and I've never seen an issue. I've biked 5,200 miles this past year in 11 months, 90% of it in the city of Austin. I've never had a problem, never seen a problem. If I've had any close encounters with cars, in deference to this gentleman over here, it was in the downtown area because there's no bike lane. And I drive on the sidewalk in downtown, and that's basically not allowed from what I understand. So from that standpoint, and then also from the 31 years in the neighborhood, I've never seen an issue. And a lot of my neighbors know I sit outside my third stall garage since I wait to the mayor and other folks. I'm retired, I don't have a lot to do. I don't ever see an issue. There's times where I'll sit there for 2 hours and there's not a car comes down the street. And I don't see any issues with the safety there from that standpoint. But I would also echo what Nick Bear said about the 19th Avenue. I'm going to say maybe 15 years ago, the city tried to put that in at that time, and the people that lived in the area also voiced their opinion against that. They did not want that straight through because it created traffic on the road that isn't straight, where 21st Avenue is straight pass through, and so is 22nd. So from the standpoint of biking, I've never felt unsafe in the neighborhood. We walk our dogs in there. In fact, we don't walk on the sidewalks in the wintertime. Why is that? Well, the sidewalk is narrow, and when the snow melts, it gets on the sidewalk. The neighbors may have cleared it off. It gets icy, and then it's very difficult to walk. So we walk on the street, which is cleared off, and we don't have any issues with any of that. Never had a close call, and we've had dogs the whole time we've lived there, 31 years. And I've never seen an issue with it. Thank you for your time letting me speak. I appreciate it. I appreciate your service to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. All right, anyone else wishing to speak on this 9th Street matter? Sir, please come forward, give us your name and address, please.
Yeah, my name is Jonathan Poindexter, and I live on 1909 9th Street Southwest. I just want to clarify a couple things that I've heard from folks who do not live on our street and are not affected by this project. First of all, I'm looking at the letter that we were sent by the city of Austin. We are not being charged for the sidewalk. And so if there's a misconception about us not wanting to pay for the sidewalk, the city of Austin, not the homeowners, are paying for this. And so for my family, my wife and I, and we have 2 little kids, this is more of an issue of losing our trees. It's last summer, during the drought, we were told you need to be watering your trees, keep them alive through this drought, all this stuff. And now this year, we're getting a letter from the city saying, we're putting in sidewalks that will eradicate those trees that you kept alive last summer. I think that that's a little bit ridiculous, and anyone that lives on our streets knows the beautiful and large old trees that are on our street. Also, I can just say similarly, as other folks with young kids on our street, that I'm not concerned about safety and sidewalks providing better safety. A car can hit someone even if there is a sidewalk, whether that pedestrian happens to step off the sidewalk or the car jumps the curb and hits the person on the sidewalk. Sidewalks do not prevent accidents per se, and especially people crossing intersections does not necessarily equate to putting in sidewalks on a street. I also am concerned this meeting is the first time I've heard about the 19th Avenue Southwest opening proposal. I also am very concerned about that for the same reason as adding sidewalks to our street. I think that adding traffic to a part of our community that doesn't have a lot of traffic is detrimental. It's not necessary. The 9th Street Southwest is not a through street. I don't think there's any reason to add more through streets in that area, that would make me more nervous as a parent. So I thank you for considering what we have to say in this process. So thank you.
Thank you, John. All right. Anyone else? Stephen?
If the residents have all spoken, I don't want to speak until everyone's done, but if you're not seeing any more hands there in the group, I just wanted to summarize a few things. So for full transparency, a couple residents have mentioned about 15 years ago, we reconstructed 19th Avenue Southwest. During that project, we also cut off 17th Avenue and 16th Avenue from their connections between 12th Street and 4th Drive Southwest by Calvary Cemetery. When we did that, proposed that project back then, we also proposed this same connection at the service road to 12th Street. We looked at it as a connection from a transportation standpoint because there are limited connections south of Turtle Creek between 12th Street and 4th Drive. It did not go through at that time. It would increase traffic, and it would increase vehicle movements at 12th Street and 19th Avenue. There is currently a rapid flashing beacon for pedestrians, children, because of the Southgate School to cross there. So just want to be open on that. We also proposed sidewalk on 19th Avenue as part of that project 15 years ago, and that was prior to our Complete Streets policy. And that sidewalk, council elected not to move forward with the sidewalk at that time for many of the same considerations and comments that you're hearing here tonight. Lastly, just there has been some discussion about trees, so wanted to take you to a table that Mitch has included in the backup material to be clear on trees. There are 47 trees on 9th Street Southwest. 10 of them have to come out because they are diseased or they are ash trees. If the sidewalk goes in, an additional 9 would have to come out for the sidewalk. So 10 of the 47 have to come out no matter what. An additional 9 or up to 19 then would have to come out if the sidewalk is chosen. So of the existing 47, we're looking at 10 for sure and possibly another 9. So just wanted to clarify a few of those points for the council.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf.
Stephen, can I ask you a question about the ash trees? If somebody has an ash tree that's been treated, will you leave it alone?
Yes. If it doesn't, in this case, if it's just a regular tree in the boulevard that's been treated, we would leave it alone. It's unlikely that a boulevard tree has been treated, though, because that tree is out in the right of way.
Yeah.
Anyone else like to speak? Council? I guess some decisions to make. Thank you for your thoughtful input. Residences of Austin, appreciate that. Council, I'll take it, let you debate it from here.
Yeah, no, so Mr. Mayor, I'll kick us off here as one of the Ward 2 representatives. First of all, thank you for the folks that are here tonight. Thank you for the folks that have reached out, both in the neighborhood as well as outside of the neighborhood. I mean, this is great to see so much public input. I think it helps us to make better decisions, and ultimately this is how government works, right? I mean, we're elected, but at the end of the day, it's your voices that we're elected to represent, and ultimately I think we make better judgments. Would love to see full council meetings all the time, and so I think this is really, really good, and I think it's a good, healthy debate. I think the way that I view it is it's a complex issue, which is probably why we should have a lot of conversation about it. I think there's really good points on both sides. I think the value of sidewalks on every street certainly has a lot of value. I think the value of, hey, we want to make this a pedestrian-friendly, walking-friendly community, ton of value. At the same time, I think there's some really legitimate concerns raised by the residents here, and not just for this neighborhood, but this is really the tip of the iceberg. When you look at the street projects that we have coming up over the next 15 to 20 years, we're gonna continue to have these conversations if we don't get some level of clarity around the Complete Streets piece of it. And so the way I look at it is I'm in favor of removing the sidewalk requirement from this project. And I think the reason for it is fourfold. One is, I do believe we should update the Complete Streets policy to grandfather in properties that were established prior to 2012. We will still put sidewalks in if the homeowners want them, and I think that's the right thing to do for us. At the same time, I do struggle to have properties that were built and bought and developed under one set of rules, and then to kind of change the rules of the game and do it in a way that impacts the fundamental nature of the property. And I do think it changes the fundamental nature of a lot of these properties. And so I think just out of equity and fairness, having a consistent set of approaches makes a lot of sense. Two is, a core underpinning of our street approach is the fact that the people who are most impacted and benefit most from a street project are the people that live on that particular street. We know in our street assessment policy, that's why we assess thousands of dollars for a street project, because if you are the one that is using it most, you are ultimately the one that is going to be most impacted by it. And so I think we have a long precedent that's there. In that situation, I think it makes sense for us to listen to the voices of the community. And in a case like this, where the vast, vast majority of people are overwhelmingly telling us, I don't want this, I think it's worth us taking into consideration their approach really, really seriously, because I think their voices matter. Three, I think the theory of sidewalks everywhere is really, really sound. I don't know that practically it is something that we're going to be able to do. Mr. Baker talked well about the cost of it. I mean, we're talking about $20 million of taxpayer dollars that we would need to put to putting sidewalks everywhere. There are a lot of things we can do with $20 million over the next several years that I think can have a much bigger impact, a much better impact on safety, and ultimately a really good impact on a wider swath of the community. And I do think there's some unique natures of this particular neighborhood in that it's not a heavy through street. It's far on the side of the community. I've lived on this street in the past. It is not a high traffic area, and there's not a lot of people that are there. So I'm not sure that it's the best use of our tax dollars to force someone to take a sidewalk that they don't want when we have so many other competing policy priorities with police and fire and library and recreation and everything like that. And then finally, I do get concerned about the sustainability impact. And you look at the chart here, we're already losing 21% of the trees on this particular neighborhood. If we put a sidewalk through, we've now reduced the number of trees by 40% that are sitting along the boulevard. When we talk about Austin being a tree city, there's a disconnect here, especially because digging into the meeting minutes, the reason the Complete Streets policy came about originally was it was a recommendation from the Sustainability Task Force talking about how to improve our environmental impact. To me, there's a disconnect between saying we want to positively impact the environment and taking out 40% of the established trees on here. And so I think there's really strong arguments on both sides. I'm sure other members of the council will disagree with some of these particular points, but I think in this situation, I would like to see us not only remove the sidewalk requirement from this, but I think it would make sense for us to adjust this Complete Streets policies to grandfather in properties so that if people want it, great. If they don't want it, let's not spend dollars and time and energy and resources forcing something down their throats that are going to have not the highest impact, but an absolute cost. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you, Jason. Council, anywhere else? Anybody else want to speak?
I have some thoughts.
Sure. Laura.
I want to say thank you to everybody for taking the time to come out tonight. I do not think it's a negative that so many people are engaged in reaching out to us. I think that's how our government works. And I think that we are all reasonable people who have thought this through and are coming at it from our own perspectives. And personally, the way I will vote as a council member is not to punish or reward a neighborhood. I'm going to take a perspective of what I think is best for the community. I hope that a lot of other council members do the same, but I just want to say that it's very easy for this to turn into us and them and good guys and bad guys, and I don't believe that's the case here. Sidewalks, like many things in our community, have a cost-benefit analysis, and every household has to weigh the costs of being part of a community to the benefits and decide if it is worthwhile or not. And as Mr. McCarthy said, the community's not really set up for cafeteria style, where you as a household can say, I don't want sewer, but I do want a sidewalk and a street, and a boulevard tree. We're set up to do things in chunks. We mobilize to your neighborhood every 50 years to redo the street, and sometimes the street isn't the driver, sometimes it's the water pipes underneath it that are actually needing the replacement the most. So it's gonna take us 50 years at least to get to our ultimate goal of complete sidewalks. So that comes out to $400,000 a year. And I don't know what we spend on streets over the next 50 years, but I'm guessing it's significantly more than $20 million. So I think it's a bit of a red herring argument to say that we can't afford long-term to complete our sidewalk system. So I also will say, I very much understand the costs to you as a resident of the sidewalk. My neighborhood had a street project go through a couple years ago. We lost our boulevard tree, which was a beautiful 50-plus-year-old tree. The whole neighborhood looks different. I would not have purchased the house that I purchased if the old trees weren't there. We lost more than 19, dozens and dozens. It will take us years to get back. It's a sacrifice, it's a cost, and shoveling and the disruption to your landscaping and your irrigation systems is real. I don't discount that. I will tell you, every single year, neighborhoods go through this. They go through this cost. They go through losing their trees, they go through disruption to their landscaping, their irrigation. We're not asking your neighborhood to do something that's unprecedented. It's part of our city and has happened in many neighborhoods every single summer. And what balances out the costs of the sidewalks? For me, when I analyze it, there are several things. One is safety, and no, a sidewalk doesn't prevent every accident, but in Minnesota, more pedestrians are getting hurt, and they're getting killed, and they're getting hurt and killed at higher rates than they have been. The trend is not good for people walking in Minnesota. Sidewalks serve our most vulnerable people. That's been mentioned. It's children, it's the elderly, it's people with disabilities, it's people who don't drive, which could be for a variety of reasons, including if you you're new to this community, you don't speak English, don't have a driver's license. There are also health benefits. Just by living in a neighborhood that's more walkable, you as a resident will be more active and you will gain health benefits from that. That is proven out over time in many studies. And then finally, future-proofing. The research shows that what homeowners are looking for is a walkable neighborhood. If you're familiar with Zillow, your house right now has a walkability score. That's not on there because people don't care. It's there because people care about the walkability of the neighborhoods they're moving into. And the younger the generation, the more they care. So I see investing in sidewalks as part of future-proofing Austin and making sure that we're a viable community going forward. So when you put together all of those things, I think it's a very good use of funds. It's not often that we can use funds at the city that are going to improve safety, or going to improve accessibility and equity. They're going to have health benefits for us, and they're going to help us remain competitive and desirable as a city going forward. I also really struggle with having the choice now for 50 years. We're not gonna come back to your neighborhood for 50 more years. Personally, I don't know why the sidewalks weren't put in when the neighborhood was built. I think we should have done that. And I now am being asked to correct that mistake by making another exception and putting us 50 more years from putting the sidewalks in. To me, that doesn't wash. I don't understand how just continuing to make the same choice improves the situation. And lastly, I would say it's a fairness issue. I represent the Northwest, where we largely do have sidewalks, and my neighbors come in and say to me, well, we have to do it We did it. We lost our tree. We have to shovel. But now, what's the difference? Why does Southwest get the exceptions? What, and, you know, people ask me, is it because, oh, it's because those are nicer, they're worth more. Those houses are worth more. Those people have more of a voice at the council than we do. That's what questions that I've been getting. So I have a real fairness problem. We have a policy in place. I do think it's not unimaginable that we would make an exception. I just don't see circumstances here that would drive an exception. So that's what's informing me. Again, I really appreciate everybody coming out and speaking, and I understand it's an emotional issue. It's about your home, and I want to honor that and value that and say thank you again for engaging.
Anyone else, Council?
Just one quick point. I'm just looking at the data. Minnesota has actually had decreasing pedestrian deaths according to the latest data that's available, but mixed on a per state basis.
Chief, can I ask you a question? Sidewalk and bicycle laws, can you clarify, are there sidewalk and bicycle laws? Bicycles on sidewalk laws?
Bicycles have, this on?
Yep.
Bicycles have the same legal rights and responsibilities to use the roadway as a car would, same direction. The state did modify it, and I wouldn't have been in favor of it, and letting you kind of glide through stop signs now on a bicycle. But generally speaking, bikes and cars have the same rights and responsibilities of the roadways with certain tweaks to them. In the city of Austin, bikes can use our sidewalks. The only place that we do regulate that is the downtown area. I'd have to look at the ordinance. It's a little bit convoluted as they explain the boundaries of it, but it is that downtown business district where I'm guessing past planners envisioned a lot more foot traffic and didn't want to have bicycles there. But in a general sense, bikes can use the roads. They have the same rights and responsibilities as our cars do.
Thank you. You know, unfortunately, we've been forced to look at these sidewalks on a case-by-case basis, which has taken away from our complete streets policy, as Charles said, wherever there he is. You know, you have a policy and then it's waived and waived and waived, and it takes away from the policy. So my opinion at this point is that I agree with Jeff and Jason and everything they said, that, you know, we need to revisit this policy, see where we're at with it. And I also want to speak on the 19th Avenue. There was a couple things said that that concern me. One is that it's counterproductive to safety because of the increased traffic it would cause and increased intersections. And so because of those things, I'm also opposed to the 19th edition.
Anyone else wish to speak before we get a motion?
I would.
Go ahead, Paul.
Thank you for everybody coming, first of all. A couple months ago, whatever, we voted as a council to either use the complete street policy or not. We voted we need to use it. Something happened between adopting that and the 9th Street project, where these folks are able to come and say, we don't want sidewalks. I don't think it's up to this council or any council in the future to vote if you get a sidewalk or don't get a sidewalk. It should be the engineering department. There's a policy in place, you get a sidewalk. It shouldn't be up to me to vote whether you get one or the next council that votes on another neighborhood. That's not right. A lot of you are saying they've lived out there for 20, 30 years. There's been no sidewalks. We haven't needed them. Understandable. But in 25 years, I could be a neighborhood with a lot of new residents with children that might appreciate sidewalks. So I think right now we're thinking, here's how it is now, and for the next 5 years, how it's gonna be, 10 years, but not, it's a 50-year road. So I think we need to look ahead at that, but I don't feel that a council should vote on somebody's street or not, so I'm in favor of the complete street policy.
Yeah, a few points, I guess, start out, since everybody's using the complete streets policy as justification for putting in sidewalks. I've read this, I support the complete streets policy, I've read the complete streets policy. I do not read in the complete streets policy where it requires us to put in sidewalks where there are not sidewalks. It says we may, as Mr. Mills pointed out. So I don't think using the complete streets policy as justification for putting in sidewalks is correct. In looking at this neighborhood, this area as it's laid out, as several of the residents have pointed out, it is not heavily trafficked. It's set up with kind of these streets to be used by the people that live there. They've all indicated they feel safe walking on the streets. They don't feel they need sidewalks to be any safer in their walking of the streets. And then the tree issue. Granted, there are 10 trees that will need to be removed because they are ash trees and or unhealthy trees. And then an additional 9 trees to be removed if the sidewalk is put in on 9th Street. Those are direct removals. I'm just concerned and going out to this neighborhood and meeting with some of these residents and looking at the area. I think there'll be several trees that will be indirectly affected by the sidewalk project, and you may end up losing more trees than just the 19. So from that aspect, I don't like what it'll do to the neighborhood. I guess I'm not in favor of putting the sidewalk in. I think it's a mature neighborhood that's been established, that hasn't had sidewalks for 50 years. Don't see the construction of the neighborhood or anything changing probably much in the next 50 years because there's not, as far as I can tell, any empty lots that's gonna create a boom of construction of new housing or new projects in the area. To say that council shouldn't be voting on these things, I think that's just exactly what council is for. As we can see, our constituents came forward and said they don't want this in their neighborhood. The engineering department acts on the policies that we've set forward, and in their mind, that's what this policy required. Then it's up to us to decide that that's not how we interpret the policy in this case. So in this case, I would say that we do not need the sidewalk included in this project. Thank you. And I appreciate all of you for contacting us, meeting with us, and showing up tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Mikey.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate so many folks who've come out, all of the emails. The ability to meet, I've always, this is my 3rd or 4th year in council, and I think I've met with a neighborhood on sidewalks every year, honestly, since I've been doing this. Before I ran, if you would have asked me what I thought would be like contentious issues that I'd hear a lot about, $105 million wastewater treatment plant would have been the top of my list. I don't think I've ever got an email about it. But boy, you talk about sidewalks, you get a lot of folks in attendance, and that's good. I appreciate you being here. As I met with a lot of you, and we looked at some of the street and we talked about it, I told you at the time, I am in favor of complete streets. I'll be honest, I still very much am. But I have also taken a hard look at just, I don't like how this meeting kind of goes every year. And so what I am hearing from some of the other city council folks here is that they'd like to take a look at the complete streets policy and find a way to use some of this money to possibly put in sidewalks where we do have a greater need for them. And so I'd like to revisit our complete streets policy, which we attempted to do last year and, to be honest, kind of failed. Because we just looked at it and said, yeah, it still looks fine, and then this happens again every year. I'd like to find something that everybody up here would feel comfortable in supporting, regardless of if it's their ward that's here upset about sidewalks or not. Looking at arterial roads, trunk roads, things like that. So while I am in favor of our complete streets policy, I also can't ignore all of my constituents who are in this room, and also looking honestly at a lot of where we're gonna have this battle over the next 10, 20 years is in Ward 2. And so whether that's a way where residents get a chance to vote on it, as has been proposed, I don't know, and I think we should take a long time to talk about it, not just a work session where we come up with no ideas again. I feel honestly bad for our city staff who spend a lot of time and energy coming up with some great plans that just kind of get lit with a match sometimes. But I also, I appreciate your voice in it because quite frankly, it has made the difference in this for me. And so at this point, I'd be in favor of not having the sidewalks on that road.
Thank you all. I appreciate the thoughtful discussion from the part of the residents and the public as well as the council. Is there a motion on this item number 7?
I'd move that we advance project 24101 without any new sidewalks.
Can I have a clarification on, because there, I'd like a little talk about the street connector as well, to be honest, because there was some concerns about that.
Maybe we take it in 2 motions, the 105.
Let's do that.
So the motion by Councilmember Baker is to advance the project 24101 without the sidewalk addition to 9th Street.
Second.
Is there a second? Tom?
So motion by Councilmember Baker, seconded by Councilmember at Large Austin to do project 24101 without sidewalks. So an aye vote is in favor of such. Councilmember Baskin.
Aye.
Fisher.
Nay.
Pashusta.
Aye.
Helly.
Nay.
Aye.
Postma. Baker.
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 5-2, Your Honor.
Thank you, Tom. Under the 9th Street or 9th Avenue Southwest access to 105, is there a discussion on that or a motion?
Can I ask, I'd like to ask Mitch or Stephen kind of the reason for the proposal to open it up. What would be the purpose of doing such?
Map here doesn't show it. It kind of shows it here in this older photograph a little bit, but the intersection would be slightly offset with the west side of Highway 105. The idea here was just to improve connectivity. You know, you've got school buses and other parents dropping off at Southgate, things like that. Just trying to provide a more direct route for people. That's really the thought behind it.
Council?
Does this connection require MnDOT approval?
Yes.
Okay.
We have not applied formally for anything, but I've reached out to them and they said it would be okay.
Is there a motion for the Southwest?
Mayor, if I
Yeah,
may.
sure, Stephen.
I'll just say, if you're looking at this neighborhood as a neighborhood upon itself with no sidewalks, walkable streets, you probably shouldn't make the connection at 12th Street.
One more time. Say that again.
If you're looking at this neighborhood as a confined area among itself with walkable streets, no sidewalks, we probably shouldn't make the connection at 12th Street.
So because sidewalks aren't going in, having additional vehicle access is not a good idea.
Correct.
Agree.
With that, is there a motion on the access to 105?
Yeah, I would move for 24101 to remove the access. Personally, it would be more convenient as I drop off at Southgate and drive to the office, but I think there's a compelling argument in terms of the essential nature of this neighborhood that I'm okay removing it.
Second.
Okay. There's a motion and a second to eliminate the 105 access from 19th Avenue. Tom?
Motion by Councilmember Baskin, second by Councilmember Baker to remove the 105 access. So an aye vote is in favor of such. Councilmember Baskin.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Pashusta.
Aye.
Helly.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Baker.
You bet.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Tom. Moving on to number 8, so if the residents of 9th Street want to depart now would be a good time. Thank you for your voice, I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you all. All right, moving on to item number 8, we have a public hearing on street improvement on 4th Avenue Northeast, 17th Street to 19th Street Northeast, project 24102, and 1st Avenue Northeast from 8th Street to 10th Street Northeast, project 24103. Mitch?
Continuing on, 4th Avenue, shut the door. 4th Avenue Northeast and First Avenue, we're kind of grouping together as a project, but they're really separate projects with some different things going on. So starting with 4th Avenue, pretty straightforward. Basically taking the existing road and removing and replacing as it is. We do have quite a bit of sanitary sewer work that we plan to do on this street. Austin Utilities has water main replacement, and then adding sump pumps, putting back the curb and gutter, asphalt pavement, and then replacing sidewalk panels that are deficient as well. Looking at the map here, kind of shows what we're doing. And then this page showing the phasing. Since this neighborhood, we've done some work in this neighborhood over the last several years. It's really difficult access-wise for residents. So we're planning to split this project in half for part of the summer. So we'd start the blue area from 17th Street to about mid-block, starting in June, wrapping up in September, and then we'd start the red area from mid-block to 19th Street in July and wrap up in September. So there would be some overlap where work is taking place in both phases, but we try and minimize that by splitting things up a little bit. Overall project cost is $785,000 for this project, $525,000 for the street work, $260,000 for the sanitary sewer work, and we have no storm sewer out here, so no cost there. I guess I will open it up to questions.
Council, any questions for Mitch on this before we open up to the public?
Mitch, any public input or comment on this one at the open house? Or
Other than there's like 4 people that on our floor in the city offices that live on this street. And they've provided a lot of.
You want to step up to the podium? Anybody?
Provided a lot of feedback, but other than that, I've talked to a couple residents, I believe, but no specific concerns that I can recall, unless there's people here that wish to speak.
Sure. Anybody here from the public wishing to speak on item number 8, the 4th Avenue Northeast project? Okay, hearing none. Council, is there any more argument or chatter, or you want to move to resolution?
I'd move to approve the resolution as ordered.
Second.
Thomas.
Councilmember Baskin.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Bashusta.
Aye.
Helly.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Baker.
Yep.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0, Your Honor.
The last of our public hearings, item number 9, is a public hearing on street improvements on 2nd Avenue Northwest from 14th Street to 19th Street Northwest and 16th Street Northwest from Oakland Avenue West to 2nd Avenue Northwest and 17th Street Northwest from Oakland Avenue West to 2nd Avenue Northwest, project 24104. Mitch.
I'd just like to back up a second, Mayor. I didn't really describe First Avenue Northeast, and that was kind of grouped in with that resolution. I don't know if there's anyone from First Avenue Northeast, like Queens here, that wanted to speak about anything. But essentially similar work there where we're removing and replacing the street. Austin Utilities has water main replacement. We do not have sanitary sewer work on that project, but we do have a little bit of storm sewer. Replacing deficient sidewalk panels, and we've been working with Queen of Angels. There's currently angled parking that's within the right-of-way there. We are going to eliminate that with their consent and make that parallel parking that serves their needs a little better and reduce costs on the project. So the total project cost for this First Avenue work is $430,000 with $350,000 of that in street costs and then $80,000 in storm sewer costs.
All right, same project number. So with that information, council, anybody want to change their vote on the project? No. Otherwise, we'll let it stand as a.
Nope, good.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you, Mitch. Item number 9, public hearing on street improvements on 2nd Avenue Northwest. I did read that, so anybody?
Yep, 2nd Avenue, 16th Street, and 17th Street Northwest. This is a lot of work in this neighborhood. Kind of three different streets. 2nd Avenue has a mix of concrete and asphalt pavement today. We would be removing and replacing that with all asphalt, so there not be concrete pavement that is currently at the east end of the road. Austin Utilities has water main and service replacement on Second Avenue. We do have a little bit of storm sewer work at 14th Street and Second Avenue, and then putting the road back with drain tile, asphalt, and new curb and gutter, as well as sidewalk improvements. And then on 16th Street, we had some discussion on this already this fall, or excuse me, earlier this winter, where we had the idea to eliminate the roadway. And we have been working with Grace Baptist Church and Our Savior's Lutheran Church on those ideas. At the council work session a few weeks ago, it seemed that the council was open to whatever the churches agreed to. And it sounds from my communications with those churches, they are both open to the removal of 16th Street and the construction of a driveway, which is shown in pink here, from Grace Baptist's driveway and wrapping around to their parking lot. That would eliminate the intersection here, and it would eliminate the intersection at Second Avenue. Both seem in agreement with that. The costs for that driveway work would be charged to Grace Baptist since it serves only them. We would retain the right-of-way on 16th Street, or the former 16th Street. Austin Utilities has water main in that area, so that would remain in place. And it would allow us in the future to put a road back there if we saw the need to do so at some future time, so it gives us some flexibility in the long run. Oh, yes, and then the sidewalk, since we had a large sidewalk discussion a few minutes ago, we would retain the sidewalk on the east side of that former road along Our Savior's, but we would be eliminating it on the west side. This provides a connection to the neighborhood where students going to Banfield cross the road on Oakland, where we have a rapid flashing beacon. So we wanted to maintain that at the same time as eliminating this street. So I think that's a good compromise. And that's about it for 16th Street. And then 17th Street, we have a little more underground utility work planned with the replacement of sanitary sewer on this 2-block stretch. Austin Utilities also has water main replacement, and then putting the streets back together. And similar to First Avenue Northeast, where we worked with Queen of Angels on elimination of some angled parking on the street, we would be doing the same thing here in front of Grace Baptist, where the angled parking would be converted to parallel parking. The total project cost is $1.4 million. With about $1.2 million in street work, $160,000 in storm sewer. I believe I have those switched around. $160,000 in sanitary sewer and $40,000 in storm sewer. That's a typo there. With that, I will open up to questions from the council or the public.
Thank you, Mitch. Council, any questions before we open up to the public?
Mitch, great, really appreciate the work you did with the churches here. Just kind of forward thinking of not having a street if we don't need it and giving them the ability to, they both pastors told me they really appreciated your work on that. One question I do have is the little driveway that we're talking about putting back in for them. Is that still in the public right of way? And if so, is there a chance that that might have to get wrapped up in 10, 15 years? And if we shifted it a little more left to get it out of the public right of way for the same cost, would that make sense?
So yes, as shown, it would be in the right of way. There's not really space. I guess there could be space to put it within the church's property. I could zoom in here a little bit. But there's several large mature oak trees that I'm guessing would not be popular to take down.
Okay. Where did you get that sense?
Past experience. And the other item is their parking lot. You can see the parked cars here. It's not set up the greatest. The west edge of this pink driveway is their property line. If there's not pavement out into the right of way, their parking lot doesn't function properly. So yes, there would be a risk that 20 years from now we'd say, hey, we want a road here, and they would have to tear it, or we'd tear it up and say, that's their loss. But our intention is to sign an agreement with both churches, kind of stating that fact, so they are understanding that this could happen in the future. It would likely be quite some time before that would take place.
Is there any utility work underneath that area or no?
Yes, Austin Utilities will be constructing or replacing the water main that they have on 16th Street here. So that's the other reason why we want to retain the right-of-way is
Right.
so they have access to it.
Yeah, okay. Well, just, let's hope that that pipe lasts longer than their
But
driveway.
yeah, the new water main would not be underneath
Oh,
that
okay.
driveway, so it'd be in a grassy area. It shouldn't.
Good.
And even if it was under that driveway, utilities, if when they dig through something like that, they replace what's there
Okay.
within reason.
Any other questions for Mitch on this project? Anybody with the public wishing to speak on this project? Sure. Please, sir, come to the microphone and give us your name and address if you could, please.
Dave Hinker at 205 17th Street
Dave?
Northwest. And I guess I'd like to see the timeline on this because I'm on the corner there of Second Avenue. And our services, garbage service and recycling and being on the corner as far as where we take this and handle this kind of stuff.
Could you explain that, Mitch, for a little bit?
So since this is such a large project in terms of length, we have broken it into 3 different phases with phase 1, which would be the blue area starting in May and continuing through August. Phase 2 would start in June, which is green, the green area between 14th Street and 18th Street, and that would be June through August. And then the 3rd phase in red, which would be 16th and 17th Street, would take place August to October, so the end of the summer through fall. So it appears your driveway is on Second Avenue, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you'd have disruption there, during the summer essentially, and then once we get that road, we may not have it paved, but we'd have it drivable with a rock surface before we'd start working on 16th and 17th Street.
And he puts his garbage can and recycling at the end?
Yep, so how it typically works is you take your receptacle to the nearest intersection, and the garbage hauling companies are pretty good at picking up whoever's can is in that area.
You might want to put your name on the garbage can.
People do that, yes.
I'll be doing the same thing.
And, our engineering staff does a really good job of, helping those with disabilities or elderly or anything like that. If it's garbage day and, their can's not out there, they'll help you wheel it out or take it out, bring it back for you, things like that. So they do a good job of that.
Now, the sidewalk assessment, is that totally on the landowner?
Yes, whatever sidewalk panels are in need of replacement, and we can go to this other map here to look at your specific property. It looks like you have a section on the 17th Street side.
Yes.
That's due for replacement, and a little bit on the Second Avenue. The pedestrian ramp on the corner, that's the city's responsibility, so you're not being charged for that, but the stretches adjacent to your property line, you are being charged for.
So who's responsible for my irrigation that goes under that sidewalk that you're gonna replace?
So we try to avoid them as much as possible if we know where they're at. So if you know where your sprinkler heads are at, if you show them to us prior to the project, help us mark them out, we can help the contractor avoid them. But our stance has been that they're, historically, if they're in the right of way and they're damaged and they're not marked, that the city does not take responsibility for those.
Even though you know they're there?
If we know we're there, it's a different story, but if we don't know they're there and we hit something, it's...
Are they coming ahead of time so we can point them out?
Yeah, you'll see activity in the area prior to things getting started, and we can meet with you at your property to specifically look at those areas.
Can I do the sidewalk, my own contractor, and have your assessment?
That is done occasionally. It's not very common because the prices that we get on these contracts are generally better than you'll get from a...
No, they're not.
Okay. as long as...
They're a licensed contract.
Okay, as long as they're licensed to work within the city right of way, you can do that. But if you do it prior to the project, there's risk that they could be damaged during the work that's taking place as part of the project. And the timing is kind of difficult if working with a contractor who's doing the rest of the concrete work on the job. Basically how I've treated it in the past, if you're saying you're gonna do it on your own and it's not done when our contractor shows up, we're gonna take care of it with our contractor. So,
Is that corner gonna have a handicap ramp
yes,
added to it?
yes. All corners that we build are ADA compliant.
Dave, I think one,
It's not that now.
Correct, it's not now, and that's why we're taking care of it.
That's why I'm asking it. That's on your nickel.
Yes, it is.
and it may, I would recommend sitting down with Mitch or having him come out and walk you through there. I think, both Mitch and Steven historically are pretty good to work with in terms of, all right, let's look at the property, figure out, here's how I would recommend marking it. Here's, answer any of the questions. They're usually
Well, the
pretty good.
sprinkler system's usually right up to the curb.
Yeah.
If you're gonna replace the curbing, it's very, very close.
Probably the bigger concern with your sprinkler system is the curb and gutter replacement rather than sidewalk. Yeah, and that's why, we don't know, we don't permit sprinkler systems in Boulevard or anything like that, so we view it as residents installing them at their own risk within the city's right of way.
It was permitted.
A year ago. There
Okay.
are permits, but it doesn't guarantee that it won't be damaged. It's at your own risk.
I'd be glad to point out where they're at.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Dave. All right, council, if there's no further questions and none from the public, looking for a resolution for item number 9.
So moved.
Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Baskin.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Pashusta.
Aye.
Helly.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Baker.
You bet.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0, Your Honor.
Thank you, Tom. Under petitions and requests, item number 10 is resolution setting public hearings for March 18, 2024 street improvement project assessment. Bree?
So we just have the resolution. I'm requesting to set the hearing for final assessments on March 18th street improvement projects.
Okay. Council, any questions? Otherwise, looking for resolution for item number 10.
So moved.
Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Baskin.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Pashusta.
Aye.
Helly.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Baker.
Yes.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 11 is requesting approval of an ordinance change related to massage therapists and massage establishment licensing. Bree?
Mayor and council members, so we have a request for a modification to the massage therapist and massage establishment licensing. So this is going to repeal the old section 6.4, the regulation and licensing of sauna and massage parlors, and section 6.41, regulation of massage therapists. So it's going to replace it with a new section 6.41, massage therapist and massage establishment. In particular, it changes a massage establishment so a sole proprietor does not have to pay for a massage therapist license and an establishment license. This eliminates the license requirement for saunas, as we do not license saunas. We requested feedback from our massage therapist and massage establishment licensees, and we only received 2 responses. One was from a sole proprietor saying that she's glad we're finally making the change to the licenses for sole proprietors, and the other was from a massage therapist at a chiropractor's office, wondering if the change would have any effect on their office, and it does not, since chiropractic offices have been exempt and will remain exempt from the city's licensing. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Bree. And then I know we have Patrick Whalen would like to speak on this matter. Patrick, come to the microphone, please, and give us your name and address, if you could, sir.
Hello, Patrick Whalen, 58306 220th Street. Thank you guys for a minute. I apologize. I know the remarks were due on the 6th, so late with this, but a few things. Massage establishment change sounds great. Going down into section 2, the exemptions, there are, for doulas and midwives, to do a perineal massage, which is to stretch out the birth canal for oncoming kids. I think they should be under the exceptions filed under there, some additional language to kind of protect them.
One more time.
So under exceptions, we have different things that are talking about barbers being able to work on the neck and shoulders, or estheticians working on hands and feet with massage practices. There are other professions, doula and midwife, that do work in the perineal area to stretch the vaginal canal for oncoming kids. I think they should be included on the exceptions, part of the proposal. Couple other small issues, but it could be bigger ones. Subdivision 4, no massage therapy services shall be provided between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. I've been a massage therapist for almost 15 years now. I am routinely at work till 10:15, 10:30 at night. I have professional employees and business owners that come in earlier, sometimes as early as 4:45, so I'd request maybe those are adjusted a little bit. I know that sounds a little bit outside of the normal realm of practicing, but when people are coming to get a massage, it's, it fits in with their schedule. There is, under subdivision 3, issuing authority or designee shall have the right to enter and inspect licensed premises during the hours in which the licensed premises is open to ensure all compliance with all the codes and provisions. That may work in some establishments if you are coming in and they have somebody to open the door, let you in, take things, but the majority of massage therapists in Austin actually are there by appointment only. So without an appointment, it's going to be hard to get somebody to come to the door. If an appointee does come to the door, knocking in, looking in, and you're with a client, there are certain protections that client has as far as privacy and healthcare privacy data that can't be exposed without risks of lawsuits. So I would suggest on that if it could be amended to say that, within X amount of time and notice, 24 hours or something to that effect, where you have a chance to actually schedule somebody to come in and inspect the premises. I think that would be pertinent, just to avoid any kind of complications. A couple other things. And I apologize, I had this a little bit more put together. Under subdivision 4, the massage therapist regulations, there is a spot that says anybody getting a massage needs to be wearing underwear. During our 500 hours training, we are all taught how to drape bodies appropriately so that we're not exposing any genitalia. Wearing underwear can impede our ability to use things like cupping, things like myofascial release, things like lymphatic drainage, that it ultimately is a detriment to the client's outlook. So it sounds silly, but there are different techniques that you use to stretch muscles and facilitate blood flow and things like that. The elastic from the underwear can put pressure on that. So if they're able to take out their underwear, and it is always up to the client whether they want to do that or not, it's taught in schools that it's optional. I just like to protect their right to wear underwear or not. But the main things are, making sure if you are coming to inspect the premises that we get a heads up, because if you walk in and we're having a healthcare conversation, that is a HIPAA violation and it could be subject to lawsuits. And the other thing with the actual terminology of massage therapy, at the state Senate right now, they may be adopting a state license for massage therapy, and the language is different than what we have on here. I believe they're supposed to be voting on that here in March. If you guys felt it proper to table this for a few months, and then we could align those two definitions, so we don't, I think this is the second or third time the definitions changed since I've been practicing in the 14 years. So it'd be nice to get everybody on the same page. So, thank you for your time, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Yeah, this is treading a territory that I'm not aware of any part of this. But I would open it up to council for any kind of a discussion on what you'd like to do.
Well, I think this is exactly why we asked Bree to reach out to the providers, was to get the very specific input, and just the timing didn't quite work. So knowing that there's also state regulations that may be in flux, I guess I would support putting it back on Bree's desk, work with the providers, get it right, and get it aligned with the state and bring it back to us later. Unless there's a reason why. I mean, is somebody gonna pay hundreds more dollars because we don't correct this establishment massage therapist double licensure problem? Like, do we need to make that
They
correction?
probably already paid their licensing
for the
fees
year.
for the year, so.
Right?
And then gives us time to let the legislature do their.
Yes.
And I thought you made some really good points, some of which I was aware of and some I definitely was not. The one thing I would say is I'd like to maybe engage Chief on the right of entry. I understand what you're saying, and you're not wrong that lots of times it's a sole proprietorship, but I also know there may be times where giving advance notice for our officers to enter a facility might not be what we need to do. So I think there's probably a happy medium we can find there.
Yeah, let's kick it back to the staff.
Yeah, I was contacted by a local massage therapist, and she also expressed some of the same concerns that Mr. Whalen did, as far as the hours and the possible conflict with what the state does, so. I think if we wait and see what they do and then act from there.
So looking for a motion to table it? if that's-
Move to table.
Second.
Okay, Tom?
Motion by Councilmember at Large Austin, second by Councilmember Baker to table it, so an aye votes in favor of such. Councilmember Baskin.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Bashusta.
Aye.
Helly.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Baker.
Yep.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Item number 12 is a request for approval of an ordinance change to small vehicle passenger service. Ray?
All right, Mayor and council members, so we have adopted some changes to our small vehicle passenger ordinance. It was placed in section 6.6 instead of section 6.61 in error. This request just transfers the small vehicle passenger service to the correct section. Let me know if you have any questions.
Council, any questions on this matter?
The only question I have is not about fully supportive of the change. I know when we originally did this, it was to try to ready the city for Lyft and Uber. I know we haven't been super successful in there, but I still get the questions of, boy, could we ever get them here?
You have it.
Is it worth maybe an offline conversation to figure out, can we reach back out to them now that they're actually making money as a, hey?
Put an advertisement out there just saying we're open for Lyft, and
Yeah.
we have an ordinance in place, so they can certainly license
I like that.
themselves. Yeah, that may be a good idea.
Yeah, it's something that we can definitely look into.
I've had one driver that goes to Rochester, and he continues to do it, doesn't know there is one in Austin. So, yeah, happy to, however you want to advertise that, Bree.
Motion to prepare the ordinance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there an ordinance adoption?
So moved.
Second.
Thomas?
Councilmember Baskin.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Bashusta.
Aye.
Helly.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Baker.
Yep.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 13 is a motion to approve funding support for Impact Austin Administrative Staff Member. Tom?
At the last council work session, they authorized $20,000 from contingency to go towards other contributions towards Impact Austin for their operations for this year. So we'd request council approval via motion to do that.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 14 is a motion approving postage machine replacement. Tom?
As was also discussed at that work session, after June 30th, most postal machines are not going to be compliant for updating the software for the meters, so we would request council authorization to use or to purchase a new one for $3,985.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 15 is approving our 2024 fireworks contract. Thomas?
Also at the last work session, we discussed the fireworks contract for 2024. We got budgeted 33 grand, 23,000 from the foundation, 10,000 from the city of Austin. However, the rates have gone up for 2024 to about $35,000 for the same quality of fireworks. We'd request council approval on that. We did reach out to the service organizations. I've heard back from just one of them who said they're gonna write us a check for the full 2 grand, and I'm asking them to come to the March meeting to present one of them big checks.
Big
to
checks,
us.
yep. Awesome.
So we won't need contingency at this point in time, but we do need approval to sign that contract.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 16 was removed. Item number 17 is approving the airport property farm rental contract with VS Farms LLC. Stephen?
We've had an ongoing relationship with VS Family Farms for maintaining cropland around the airport. This is located inside of the fence. We have restrictions with what the FAA will allow us to do inside of the fence, and it's very limited. It's mainly grassland, and there's a small amount of area that can be utilized as row crops. So we have it broken down into non-productive, 182 acres, and then productive, 41 acres. Non-productive, again, that grassland is, we've tentatively agreed to with the farmer, upon council approval, a $65 per acre rate for non-productive. And we have worked with them to increase the rate for the productive 41 acres up to $150 per acre. So this is an increase in our yearly land lease to $17,980. Couple other things to know about this is the city does pay tax on this. When we make money or lease out that land, we make revenue for it and then therefore have to pay taxes. We pay about a little over $5,000 in taxes for this. That comes out of that profit that we make from the land lease. And in addition, working with VS Farms, they also mow or hay the 13 acres of Port Authority property that's located directly west of the Quick Trip truck stop on 11th Drive Northeast. That is done more as a maintenance so that we don't have to be out there with our park and rec forces. So there is no dollars exchanged for that, but rather they're helping us to keep the grasses cut, weeds down, kind of all rolled into this airport lease. So with that, we would recommend this 3-year agreement for 2024, 25, and 26 with VS Family Farms.
It's a fair deal. Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm sorry, that is a resolution. Tom, please.
Councilmember Baskin.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Bashusta.
Aye.
Ellie.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Baker.
Yes.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 18 is a motion approving the contract with WHKS for engineering construction services on sanitary sewer siphons. Stephen.
Yes, we have been working on this project for a couple of years now. Project was recently awarded, and the next step to move us into construction is to look at a proposal from WHKS for engineering construction services to oversee the construction on our behalf and coordinate with the contractor. Mitch and I will also be involved with the project, but WHKS will do a lot of the day-to-day boots on the ground work. Their estimated cost for this, or their proposal, is $46,900. This would come out of the overall project budget, which brings us up to $1,085,558, and we had $1.1 million budgeted for this project. We would recommend portions of this cost, 50% actually, will come from the local option sales tax, remainder from our wastewater fund, and we'd recommend approving this contract with WHKS.
Council? If no questions, looking for a motion?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 19 is a resolution accepting these donations. The City of Austin, there's several community gifts to the library, the 2023 library gifts. For the Austin Public Libraries, the community supported that in $16,652.74. Also, gifts from the community for the library, $6,220. And then Project 25 for the library, $26,958.28. That all comes from the community. We appreciate that. The Austin Public Library, I know Julie does as well. The other gift is a $500 gift from Deborah Rutledge at the benefactor is the Hormel Nature Center for a park bench. So with that, looking for a motion, resolution to accept.
So moved.
Second. Tom.
Councilmember Baskin.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Bashusta.
Aye.
Ellie.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Baker.
You bet.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0, Your Honor.
Thank you. Our only citizen remaining is Greg Baskin. Any comments, Mr. Baskin?
I'm just enjoying the meeting.
Oh, sorry, Greg. We'll take your comments after we do number 20. Item number 20 is a resolution authorizing execution of airport T-hanger entitlement transfer. Stephen.
As part of our funding package for the upcoming T-hanger project, we're looking at getting dollars from other communities as part of their entitlement funds, which we would put together to fund our portion of this project, and then we would repay those entitlement funds to other communities in future years. This is our first one in front of the council tonight, with the $110,000 being proposed to come from the Eveleth, Virginia airport, which we would then return to them in 2027.
Council, any questions for Stephen on item number 20? If not,
Stephen, I was just kind of curious, like the mechanics of that. So obviously we could approve this, but in 2027, there's a different council. Like, are we obligating them that? How does that work?
Yeah, we get $150,000 of entitlement funding every year.
Yeah.
So we can pool that up for a number of years for a project like this, which we have done. And then we're also allowed to borrow ahead and then repay those communities. So essentially, yes, we are committing to this repayment in 2027 for future councils. Yep.
That's correct.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Greg's got something to say here.
Sorry.
But, Stephen, correct me if I'm wrong, but really, we're sort of waiving $150,000 in a couple of years that we would otherwise be entitled to in favor of taking it now by borrowing it again from Evelyn, right?
Sure.
So we're not committing anybody to spend anything in 2 years. We're committing not accepting something that
Sure.
would have otherwise been available.
Thank you. All right, any other questions? If not, looking for resolution.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, that's resolution. Tom? Everybody. Off my game, dude.
Councilmember Baskin.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Pashusta.
Aye.
Helly.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Baker.
Yes.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes
All
7-0.
right, any citizens here that wish to address the council? Okay. On to reports and recommendations. Julie has something from the library, please.
Yeah, just a couple things from the library. A big thank you to Tom, who came out in February. He comes out every February to the library board and kind of goes over financials. It's really helpful for new board members and just to kind of help with some of our quirky things there at the library. So thank you very much. I learn something new every time. Also, if you were a library app user, when it went away, it was very painful. It is back. So whether you have an Apple or an Android, you should be able to go to your Apple store, look up Selco Libraries, and get your library app back on. It is great to have. It's not quite as fancy as the last one, but they'll get there. This is kind of just the first version. And then a couple really cool events we have coming up. I gave you all flyers just so you can share them out with your respective communities. The Mower County Health and Human Services paired up with the library in January for a community event with the idea of serving after hours people who couldn't make it during hours at social services. We had 17 attend. None of them spoke English as a first language. It was really a great experience. We're doing it again on February 27th. We asked what else they might want, so we have other groups coming this time, and then we're going to do it in March as well. That was a community event that came out of the community storytelling event that quite a few of us attended back a while ago. And then last but not least, we do have a diversity, equity, and inclusion mini grant that we received from Selco, and we are going to be having driver's license training classes in Spanish. They will be held in March, and if you put that up, if anybody is interested in registering, the registration information is all right there on the flyer. So lots of cool things going on at the library.
Excellent. Thanks, Julie. Any other staff have anything to report? If not, we'll kick it down to the council. Joyce?
I have nothing, thank you.
Thank you. Paul?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Jason?
No, I would just echo your comments to open the meeting but condolences to Burnsville.
Thank you. Jeff?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Jeff?
Sorry that we made your life difficult. We have got to solve this complete streets policy. We don't agree on anything, but we're going to get there.
We can do it.
Sorry.
Thank you. Michael?
Very disappointing that you didn't read every single library.
I know it. Bree and I got it. We had a talk.
Meeting.
We had a talk.
Posted online.
Do you want to be here?
Yeah. Sound reading of the room, though.
I knew it was coming. We knew it was
Just a minute
coming,
before
Bree.
you start.
Yeah, all right.
And then, just echo condolences to Burnsville and really all of our public safety staff across the state who I know felt that loss.
Thank you, Michael. Laura?
I'm looking forward to reviewing Complete Streets again. I also am very excited because the idea that I've been quietly floating for years of having a net zero tree policy where our street projects would not take out more trees than they replace, but we get to net zero on our construction. I would really like to talk about that, and I heard a lot of public support for trees, boulevard trees and all kinds of trees in these last days and weeks. The Parks, Recreation and Forestry Department has completed a count of ash trees in our community. There are just over 2,000 that need to be removed from public property, plus the Nature Center. And there are an estimated 3,000 ash trees on private property. The private property was a drive-by survey. It was not a, we're gonna look real close in your backyard. So that's probably a bit of an undercount. So I think that is a major step for us to quantify, more than just saying we know there's a lot out there. There's 5,000 trees that are gonna need to come down. And again, if they don't come down and they're diseased, a storm is going to hit, and then the impacts are gonna be significant and expensive, and there'll be both private property owner impacts and public impacts. The staff in Parks, Recreation, Forestry is forming a team around forestry to try to really put a focus on this area. I think it's been something that we knew needed to happen, but there were many other things going on, and I'm seeing more of a focus now on the problem, which is great. Also watch for the summer activity guide to go out to the public with all of the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry activities. Congratulations to Julie, Jason, and Holly for staying out of the sidewalk discussion. Better luck next time, Chief. I know he told me he was gonna bring popcorn for the exciting debate, but I'm sure it'll be fine. Culture and Arts Commission is looking for one more commissioner, and we have set our date for 4th Avenue Fest, which is June 8th. I'm looking at Jason like he's gonna totally remember. June 5th. June 5th, thank you, June 5th.
Is that in addition to the one we approved tonight, Jenna?
Yes, well, no, yes, in addition to Jenna.
Okay.
So we have one more opening.
Okay, thank you. All right, I have nothing, so I'm looking for a motion to adjourn to Monday, March 4th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.